Shabbat Shalom. Appreciate everyone's patience with our phantom voice of someone else. I would have been very concerned if we were getting a baseball or a football game being wired in, but I guess that's not the case. I want to ask everyone a question is about numbers. I want to ask you about the number 3. Number 3. In the Jewish religion, what do you think is significant about the number 3? Why does the number 3 have value? What might be times that we've seen the number 3 in Judaism? Judy. 3 daily services. Fantastic. Great. Diana.
In the Echad Yodea, it's Shalosh Avot. So we have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
3 forefathers. Very good. Yep. Yes. Yeah, it's funny. 3 forefathers. Yes.
And the Shalosh Regalim. We've got one coming up.
And we have the 3 festivals. The third one is approaching very soon. Yes. In 2 days. Yes. Dr. Stein, is your hand up?
Yeah, 3 usually signifies intent. Something's done 3 times.
You have a chazaka, maybe time. Yes, it shows intent. Yes, very good. Thank you for that. Yes, my good friend. Logan, very good. There's 3 points on the shin. Very nice. Very nice. Yes, other 3s, Diana.
Kohen, Levi, Israel.
Kohen, the priest. Levi, the Levi, and people of Israel. 3. Yes. Any other famous 3s? Yeah, Jeff. Oh, very nice. Always can have a good messianists in the audience. Yes, there have been 2, and there's a belief that there will be a 3rd temple. Some believe that is already there. That is for a totally different sermon. But thank you for bringing the messianic voice to our community, Jeff. Really appreciate it. Yeah, good. 3. I'll throw another one out there for you. There's 3 parts of the Sabbath. There is Friday night, the Saturday morning, and then the second part of Saturday, culminated by 3 different ways of understanding rest. One is celebrating creation. The other is celebrating revelation, getting Torah and getting instruction. And the third is redemption, applying the instruction to our lives. Howard, yeah. We have not said that. Very good. Yes, the 3 parts of the Tanakh. Tanakh is an acronym for T, Tav, Torah, N, Nevi'im, which is prophets, and then third, Ketuvim, writings. Yes. Isn't it interesting that the Tanakh is divided into 3? Yes, Marge. 3 stars in the sky. What happens when we see 3 stars in the sky? The holiday or Shabbat is over. Yeah, 100%. Interesting. 3s, 3s, 3s. Do you guys realize how many 3s we have in our religion? And it is with 3 in mind that I want to draw everyone's attention to the holiday that's approaching. Some would say that Shavuot is the 3rd part of the holiday festival cycle, and whereas that might be critically debatable, it's definitely true in terms of how we experience the holidays. We all believe that Sukkot happens in the beginning part of the year, and then we have Passover, and then we have Shavuot. So there's something about that. But more importantly, Shavuot, the holiday we're about to celebrate, is the holiday when we recall the act of receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai. And the number 3 is deeply linked to that moment. First of all, it is allegedly that it was on the 3rd day of the 3rd month that this happens. So the month of Sivan, the critical way of looking at the Jewish calendar is that Nisan, the month when Passover falls, is the 1st. So we've got Nisan followed by Iyar, and then we have Sivan. Month number 3 is when we receive the Torah. And it occurs on the 3rd day. Now you're saying, well, wait a second, Rabbi. Shavuot, the holiday celebrates this moment. That takes place on the 6th and 7th day of the month. What do you mean? Well, the tradition goes that it was Moses who received the Torah first and then shared that with the people of Israel. That act of revelation happened on day 3. And who was Moses? Moses was not the first, not the second, but he was the 3rd child of Amram. And I can go on. He was also a Levite, and part of that sacred 3 of priests, Levites, and Israel. And what does he receive? He receives, as Howard noted, he receives the Tanakh, the Torah, the prophets, and the writings, a set of 3. So now we have to ask the question of what is hinted at by the number 3 in connection to the act of receiving Torah. Why is 3 an important theme here? Well, that's what I want to unpack. At first, it just seems like a random number, but I think we have a little bit of a sense of the power of 3 in the Passover Seder. The action begins in the Seder at Yachatz, when we break the middle matzah. We have, compared to any other, why is this night different? One thing we don't note in the 4 questions is that on every other night we have 2 pieces of bread for a holiday meal, but on Passover we have 3. And the rabbis are trying to tell us a story here about 3. And the story, they say, is that you have Egypt, you have the people of Israel, and these 2 things cannot coexist. And if you were an Israelite living in the time of Egypt, right, you notice that as Egypt gets stronger and as the Israelite nation gets stronger, it doesn't work. So that 3rd piece needs to break. And it is this, and what the Yachatz highlights is what it means to be stuck in the middle of 2 polarities. You have Egypt, you have Israel, you have, you can go on and say you have an aristocracy, you have a meritocracy, all these things that all of a sudden can't coexist and something has to break. And it is in that breaking that we engage in our Passover Seder. So what was once incapable of coexisting eventually evolves, a new people is formed, we discover ourselves, we discover our new purpose, we leave Egypt, go off to a second chapter, and lo and behold, we find that missing piece, and then we're able to make that missing piece, the afikomen, whole again. And all I want to take from that example is this idea of what 3 hints at is that there's 2 extremes and then 1 person in the middle. So when we talk about receiving Torah, we have God, we have this world, and then we have Moses, we have us, the people of Israel, trying to reconcile the 2. We have ideas, we have students, and who is in the middle? The teacher. This number 3 group is very common to the educators in the room, because you know that if you just take one, I'm just going to engage my students, but I'm not going to bring ideas to their attention, then what am I doing? And if I just say I'm going to spit out the ideas to my classroom, but they don't grasp them, then what am I doing? So this number 3, I think, is deeply linked to this act of what it means to receive Torah, as it shows that the act of receiving Torah is an act of trying to bring together and reconcile 2 very different ideas. And this is very much the concept of what it means to learn in Judaism. To the Hebrew word for understanding is lahavin, right? In havin, you can see the Hebrew word bet and nun, which is in between. So learning comes from reconciling the 2. Which brings us to who was the role model of the teacher? Who is the first person that we can look to as someone who engaged in this act of being that third in between two ideas? Just by the way, before I say who that is, it shouldn't be lost on us that when people try to describe what's going on in the world today, right? We talk about polarities. Oh, the world is becoming divided, right? And it's almost like there's a message that, oh, well, if the world is becoming divided, choose a side. And our Torah is coming through with this message and saying, actually, there's a role to be played by those of us who are trying to figure out where we are in between these two polar ideals or polar ideas, whichever they may be. So who is it? Moses. And what tribe is he a part of? He's a part of the Levite tribe. And it is in this week's Torah portion, which always coincides before the holiday where we celebrate receiving Torah, that in this week's Torah portion, we learn about the tribe of Levi. And we learn about it in great details in ways we haven't learned about them before. Now you're probably sitting here being like, Rabbi, I think you're wrong here, because didn't we just finish the third book of the Torah? And the third book of the Torah is called Leviticus, meaning it's the laws about the Levites. I would say very good point. But when you get into the details of the book of Leviticus, you realize it's only talking about a subset of the tribe of Levi, those who are the descendants of Aaron, those who are the priests or the Kohanim. We don't really know much about the Levites up until this point, other than Moses comes from them, other than when Moses comes down from the mountain with the Torah, ready to pass along this divine document. It didn't work. There was rebellion. There was golden calf. And who protects Moses? And who does Moses lean on to sort of establish order? The tribe of Levi. That's all we really know about them until this week's Torah portion. And from this week's Torah portion, you're following along, you're welcome to on page 773. There's many references, so you're going to see, but I want to highlight this. We learn, number one, that when the entire congregation of Israel is counted, the Levites are not to be counted. They are to be set aside. They are to be different. Number two, we learn that the Levites have been selected to serve in the temple. Now, this is a change that we learn about actually in the Torah reading, because it's supposed to be the firstborns. And instead, the Levites are chosen. And three, what we learn from the Levites is that they are to protect God and protect the people of Israel from each other. They are positioned in the outer boundary. Imagine when the camp moves, you've got in the center, you've got the tabernacle that is carried by the priest, and around that area are the Levites, and around the Levites are all the tribes of Israel. So these three things, I think, highlight some interesting qualities about the Levi'im related to what it means to be in this in-between space. Number one, there's a piece of their being outside. There is an experience that all of the tribe is going through, but that doesn't fall upon the Levites. They're a little bit removed. Number two, the Levites, I can't remember that second piece. I'll go to number three, then I'll try. What was my second part about the Levites? So the Levites work inside the tabernacle. Say it again? They were like guards. Yeah, they were the guards. So we think about them as being the guards, but they have to deal with okay, we'll do three, then we'll go back to two. They have to deal with the challenges of the outside world in ways that the priests don't have to deal with. The priests are with God. They're in this divine, sacred, almost ideal space. And it is the Levites that are engaged in sort of navigating this holiness with the outside world. And the third part, the second one, is that they were chosen as opposed to the firstborns. Now, this is a big move by God and by the people and by Judaism. And for people that say that, oh my God, like Jewish law, it never changes, wow, this is a huge change. Originally, the people that were meant to serve God were those who were saved by God. That the past, what God did for someone in the past, dictated what we owed in our present and our future. And that doesn't work because the firstborns are part of the sin of the golden calf. Just simply holding on to the past is not a viable model according to the Torah. But the Levites demonstrate through the choices that they make that they are worthy of dwelling and working in a divine space. Judaism goes from linked to the past to being a meritocracy. That to be close to God, you have to demonstrate that through the choices that we make. And the Levites demonstrate these three pieces. So from these three examples, we get a greater sense about what it means to be in between in this day and age. And I think we can all relate in many ways to these three parts. Maimonides actually looks at the lives of the Levites and says, everyone can choose to be among the Levites for all of the world's inhabitants. And when he writes this, whoever spirits moved him and whose intelligence gave him the understanding to both withdraw from the world and engage in the world, they too can be a Levi. So then what does it mean to be a Levi? The Levites don't have land. They are divided up into 48 separate cities in the world. They're apart. When they're counted, they're apart. And I feel it's very easy, I wouldn't say easy, something that I experience is this idea that when Jewish history is unfolding in the land of Israel, I feel often very distant from that narrative that's taking place. So I connect to that part of being a Levi being apart. And I wonder to what extent everyone here, as you're watching the central narrative unfold, that here we are being like, feeling a little numb to it and feeling a little disconnected. Perhaps in many ways it was motivating me to go to Israel this summer and then later take teens. Secondly, and also very similarly, whereas we are apart, we are still very much in a position of representing the Jewish people, our purpose, and our legitimacy to the outside world that surrounds the land of Israel and the people of Israel where we are. Trying to reconcile what is right with the diverse messages that are heard. It's very easy to feel that we're sort of getting battered down and we have to uphold our values while behind us the God dwells and the people of Israel are moving forward. And then thirdly, this idea of linking our Judaism to action. The Levites were ones who didn't just say, well, we're going to, whatever happened in the past, we are just going to move forward, but they embodied a life of choice. And there's something to be said for if you are in between these two opposites, it's very easy to be like, you know what, I'm just going to withdraw. I can't hold these two conflicting ideas. I need to remove myself from the tension, from the conflict. But for the Levites, they embraced that challenge, whether it be through learning or through study or through engagement. The Levites responded to the challenge of how to dwell in between the two through moving forward with action and choices and proactive choices. And I encourage all of us in a day and age where it's very easy to feel that we are that we have nothing to do, that we don't have agency, that there's actually many ways that we can support each other, we can support Israel, and be our own advocates and be Israel's advocates. So, in conclusion, and before I open it up, I want us to think about Shavuot as a holiday of threes, but most importantly, amongst that three, that number one that dwells between the other two. And that we all carry that power within us, and it is not an easy burden to fulfill, but the reward is very much demonstrated by the story of Levi. Rabbis say that by not being included in the counting, the Levites became the only tribe to survive all of the atrocities that take place in the book of Numbers. And all I want to gain from that is that the Levites stick around. There is an enduring value to the Levites that we see to this day. There are two types of Jews that have made it through the test of time. Of course, we always welcome Jews as Jews of choice, but for the test of time, there's the Jews, the descendants of Judah, different sermon, and the Leviim. By the way, the Kohanim are also from that tribe of Levi. And sometimes, although it's difficult to sort of manage that tension of being in the two, there is an enduring reward that awaits us for doing so. Shabbat Shalom.